My name is Lucas Grant, I'm 32 years old, and for most of my life, I believed logic could solve anything. I'm a software architect based in Portland, Oregon, specializing in designing systems that streamline logistics for construction companies. My family owns Grant Logistics V Engineering, a respected regional firm that supplies materials to half the Pacific Northwest. Our reputation was built on efficiency, precision, and trust, three things I used to think defined me. And at that time, everything looked perfect. I was engaged to Sienna Moore, a 29-year-old project director at Moore Urban Developments, one of our company's biggest clients. Our marriage wasn't just about love, it was a strategic alliance that would merge two family empires. The Grants had the infrastructure, the Moores had the projects. Together, we would control millions in real estate development across Oregon and Washington. The wedding was set for the following day. A grand ceremony at the Riverside Pavilion, overlooking the Willamette River, with over 200 guests, family, business partners, politicians, and clients. It was supposed to be the moment both families would seal a new era of prosperity. ID spent months planning every detail, the lighting, the floral design, the jazz trio that would play during dinner. Even the timing of my vows had been scheduled down to the second. That's who I was, a man of control, precision, and foresight. And that's exactly why the betrayal hit me like a freight train. The night before the wedding, I was at the Hilton downtown Portland, where both families had booked rooms for the weekend. The rehearsal dinner had ended hours earlier, and most guests had gone to their rooms. I stayed behind at the bar with my best man and oldest friend, Aaron Blake. We'd met in college. He was charming, reckless, and the kind of guy who could talk his way out of anything. ID trusted him with everything, my business, my secrets, and now, my wedding. I should have known better. Aaron was notoriously careless with technology, a trait that had always irritated me as a systems architect. That night, while he excused himself to use the restroom, he left his iPhone on the counter, screen unlocked. A message notification appeared. My eyes caught it unintentionally, but what I saw froze my blood. It was from Sienna. The preview line read, "Still can't stop thinking about what you did to me tonight." My rational mind screamed not to look further, but instinct overrode discipline. I opened the thread. And there it was, a video. A video Aaron had recorded himself. My fiancée and my best friend. Together. In her hotel room. The footage was unmistakable, the same white curtains behind the bed, the same scar on her shoulder, her laugh that ID heard 1,000 times. I didn't need audio confirmation, but the moment I heard Aaron's voice whisper her name, everything inside me went still. At first, I wanted to punch through the bar mirror, to drag him out of the restroom and end him right there. But another part of me, a colder, more methodical part, took over. The same part that had built million-dollar logistics systems began processing what ID just seemed like an equation. Revenge wasn't rage. It was calculation. So, with hands that barely trembled, I mirrored the entire chat thread and copied the video onto my own phone. By the time Aaron came back, cracking jokes about the ceremony and the open bar, I was calm again. Too calm. He never suspected a thing. That night, while Sienna slept peacefully in her suite upstairs, probably believing her secret was safe, I stayed up working not on code for a client, but on a program of a different kind. The architecture of justice. I reviewed their full conversation thread. The betrayal wasn't a one-time mistake. There were weeks of messages, photos, videos, plans. It had been going on for months, while I was planning our honeymoon in Maui and finalizing business contracts with her father. It wasn't just infidelity. It was strategy. They had both used me as a stepping stone, one for power, the other for thrill. I couldn't let it end in shouting or violence. No, this had to be perfect, like the systems I designed. Flawless. Elegant. Irrevocable. So, I began planning. The wedding had a digital guest list synced to both families' contact networks, emails, phone numbers, everything. Using my company's server infrastructure, I built a distribution script that would send one message to every phone number simultaneously. Each would receive a simple link, nothing suspicious. That link would open the video Aaron had so kindly filmed for me. The timing? Precisely during my vows. When the Reverend asked me to share my words of love and commitment, 200 phones would vibrate in unison. The moment they opened that link, every secret would unravel, every mask would fall. I tested the system twice. It worked flawlessly. By the time the sun rose, I was no longer the man I had been the night before. Something inside me had crystallized calm, focused, deadly precise. When I finally looked at my reflection in the hotel mirror, I didn't see a broken groom. I saw a man who was about to deliver the most devastating piece of software had ever designed, not to optimize logistics, but to optimize revenge. The morning of the wedding felt strangely calm. I woke up at dawn in my hotel room, the city still covered in a pale gray mist. I showered, shaved, and put on the charcoal suit I had tailored months ago. Every move was mechanical, efficient, precise, like I was running a protocol I'd coded long ago. Downstairs, I had breakfast at the cafe across the street. Black coffee, 2 poached eggs, sourdough toast. I remember that detail because it felt absurdly normal, like a ritual from a life that no longer existed. People passed by outside, laughing, rushing, living. I wondered how many of them were hiding truths as devastating as mine. By 10 a.m., Aaron arrived at the hotel suite, full of jokes and optimism. He adjusted his tie in the mirror, grinning. "Man, you look way too calm for someone getting married in 6 hours," he said. I smiled. "You know me. When you plan everything perfectly, there's nothing to worry about." He laughed, patting my shoulder. He had no idea. At noon, Sienna called. Her voice was sweet, light, filled with anticipation. "Lucas, I can't believe it's finally happening. I'm so excited for our ceremony. It's going to be the most beautiful day of our lives." I paused for half a second before answering. "I completely agree," I said. "It'll be a day no one will ever forget." She giggled, thinking it was romantic. I knew it was a promise. By 2 o'clock, the guests began arriving at the Riverside Pavilion, that beautiful venue by the Willamette River. Rows of white chairs lined the grass, and the late afternoon sun reflected off the water like molten glass. The florist's team was setting up final arrangements, and the band was tuning up. My mother, Claire Dawson, was greeting people with tears of joy. She had no idea those same tears would soon fall for a very different reason. I ran one final test on my system. Everything was ready. The message list was verified, the server was live, and the automation timer was synced precisely with my wristwatch. At exactly 4:17 p.m., when I'd begin my vows, the system would deploy, sending one text to every guest simultaneously. The message was simple. A wedding gift from the groom and bride. Click to see their love story. Harmless. Until you clicked. Aaron knocked on the door. "Ready for this, partner?" "More than you can imagine," I said, meeting his eyes. We left the hotel together, our black suits reflecting the afternoon light. The drive to the pavilion felt eternal, though I could barely hear him talking. My focus was on the ticking in my head, the countdown to detonation. When we arrived, the sight was breathtaking. 200 guests in their best clothes. Rows of pink and white roses. The altar framed perfectly by the skyline. It was everything I had imagined, every detail I had once thought would mark the beginning of a new life. Now it would mark the end of an illusion. Sienna arrived minutes later in a Vera Wang gown, worth more than most cars. She looked ethereal, radiant, breathtaking, and utterly false. Her father, Robert Moore, shook my hand proudly. "Welcome to the family, Lucas," he said, his tone warm and confident. "Thank you, Mr. Moore," I replied with a polite smile. "This union means more than you can imagine." The irony of those words almost made me laugh. By 3:55 p.m., the guests were seated, the string quartet began to play, and I took my place at the altar beside Aaron. I glanced at him once. He looked serene, almost proud. The man had betrayed me, yet here he stood, holding the rings like a loyal friend. When the music changed, everyone stood. Sienna appeared at the end of the aisle, her arm linked with her father's. Every step she took brought her closer to the point of no return. For a brief moment, I almost felt pity. Almost. She reached the altar, smiling with tears of joy in her eyes. Her father placed her hand in mine and whispered, "Take care of her." I nodded, though the words burned like acid. Reverend Patterson opened the ceremony. His calm voice carried over the sound system, full of reverence. "Dear friends and family, we are gathered here today to celebrate the union of Lucas Grant and Sienna Moore in holy matrimony." The crowd fell silent, their smiles reflecting warmth and sincerity. They had no idea what was coming. 15 minutes passed in peaceful ceremony readings from Corinthians, gentle words about love, trust, and faith. I felt every syllable like a blade. When the Reverend turned to me and asked, "Lucas, would you like to share your vows with Sienna?" I took the microphone. This was it. "Sienna," I began, my voice steady, amplified across the entire pavilion. "I've prepared something very special for this moment." Her smile widened. She thought I was about to pour my heart out. Instead, I took a breath. "Last night," I said slowly, "I discovered a truth that changed everything. A truth that needs to be shared with everyone here." The shift was instant. Whispers among the guests. A flicker of confusion on Sienna's face. Aaron stiffened beside me. "You and Aaron," I continued, "my best man, my best friend. You thought I'd never find out." Gasps echoed through the crowd. I discreetly tapped the execute button on my smartwatch. In the span of 5 seconds, the air was filled with the buzz of 200 vibrating phones. One by one, screens lit up. And then silence. Followed by the collective sound of disbelief. Some guests covered their mouths. Others whispered, others stared. The murmur grew like a wave. "But you know what's ironic?" I said into the microphone, my voice calm. Aaron was thoughtful enough to record everything for me. The color drained from Sienna's face. Aaron looked like a ghost. The crowd began to react, gasping, muttering, moving. My mother's eyes found mine, confusion and heartbreak colliding. And as chaos rippled through the audience, I stood there, perfectly still. Because every line of code, every second of timing had executed flawlessly. The wedding algorithm had done its job. And my revenge had just gone live. The silence that followed was deafening. For a few seconds, all you could hear was the river and the faint hum of the sound system. Then came the whispers, the gasps, the sharp intake of breath from 200 people watching a life implode in real time. Sienna's hands trembled as she tried to grab the microphone. "Lucas, please. We can talk about this." I stepped back. "No, Sienna. You chose to do this in secret. I choose to end it in the light." She froze. Aaron, beside me, looked paralyzed. His lips moved, but no sound came out. Finally, he managed, "Man, you don't understand, it was a mistake just one time." I cut him off. "One time? The message history says 3 weeks. 3 weeks of lies, videos, and plans." Gasps echoed across the pavilion. Guests stood, some turning toward the exit, others rooted to their chairs, unable to look away. Reverend Patterson tried to calm the chaos. "Lucas, my son, perhaps we should." "With all due respect, Reverend," I interrupted, "this ceremony is over." Robert Moore, Sienna's father, shot up from the front row, face red with rage. "This is absurd. You're not going to destroy 2 families over a misunderstanding." "Misunderstanding?" I asked, my voice eerily calm. "Watch the video before using that word again." The murmurs turned to a low roar. Some guests had already passed their phones to others, the evidence was spreading like wildfire. My mother, Claire, still seated near the front, looked at me in shock. "Lucas. What's going on?" I turned toward her gently. "Mom, I found out Sienna's been cheating on me. With Aaron." Her hand went to her mouth, tears filling her eyes. Panic rippled through the Moore family. Patricia Moore, Sienna's mother, rushed forward. "Lucas, please. Don't do this here. Think about the companies, the guests, think about the future." "The future?" I said. "You mean the future you tried to buy with deceit?" And then, the final twist came. Patricia shouted through tears, "She's pregnant, Lucas. Please, don't ruin everything, think about the baby." That stopped everything. The crowd went dead silent again. "Pregnant?" I turned back toward Sienna. "Is that true?" Her lips trembled. "Yes, but it's yours." "Are you sure?" I asked. "Because based on the timeline, I think there's reason to doubt." A sharp cry broke from the audience. Aaron looked like he wanted to sink through the floor. Sienna began sobbing uncontrollably. "Then let's clear this up," I said into the microphone. "Let's have a paternity test. Let's find out who the father is." "Enough!" Robert shouted. "You're humiliating us. You'll regret this." "No, Mr. Moore," I said, my tone cutting like glass. "I'm not humiliating anyone. I'm just showing the truth." And then it happened. Sienna collapsed to her knees, crying into her hands. "I don't know who the father is," she screamed. "It could be Aaron's." The crowd froze. For a moment, nobody breathed. Then the whispers returned faster, sharper, louder. The business partners in the front row exchanged looks of disbelief. Phones recorded everything. The governor's assistant discreetly left. Two families' reputations, their empires were dissolving right there, beneath the wedding arch. I turned toward the microphone one last time. "To everyone who came here expecting a celebration, thank you. But I can't marry someone who doesn't respect me. The ceremony is over." I took off the ring, placed it gently on the altar beside Sienna, and walked away. Aaron tried to grab my arm. "Lucas, man, we can fix this." "There's nothing to fix," I said. "You made your choice. Now live with it." I walked down the aisle as chaos erupted behind me. Sienna's sobs echoed through the speakers, guests shouted, and my mother's voice tried to call after me. But I didn't stop. Outside, the crisp autumn air hit my face like freedom. For the first time in months, I could breathe. Behind me, the screams and confusion continued. Sienna, broken and humiliated, was being helped by her parents. Aaron stood alone, pale, motionless, surrounded by whispers. I got into my car, started the engine, and drove away. Not to escape, but to end it cleanly. That night, I left Portland. I didn't pack much, just my laptop, a few clothes, and the cold satisfaction that justice had been served. Over the next few days, the story spread faster than any viral campaign I'd ever built. Videos from the guests flooded Facebook, Instagram, TikTok. Headlines appeared on local news sites. Groom exposes cheating bride and best man mid-ceremony. Scandal erupts at Portland's Riverside Pavilion wedding. My assistant, Sarah, emailed updates. "The clip has millions of views, Lucas. People are calling it the most savage revenge ever." But I didn't feel pride. Just peace. 2 weeks later, a paternity test confirmed what everyone already suspected: the baby was Aaron's. The fallout was catastrophic. More urban developments lost contracts worth millions. Investors pulled out, citing ethical concerns. Aaron was fired from his firm. And Sienna, well, she disappeared from social media entirely. Meanwhile, Grant Logistics VE Engineering thrived. We'd cut off all ties with the Moore family, and within 6 months, our revenue had increased by 20%. When people asked how I was doing, I told them the truth. I've never been better. That night by the river had burned everything fake out of my life. And for the first time, I wasn't running code for business. I was running code for my own rebirth. The months that followed felt like stepping into a different life. After leaving Portland, I drove aimlessly for days through forests, along highways, across mountains. The Pacific Northwest faded in my rearview mirror, replaced by long open roads and endless horizons. Each mile I drove stripped away another layer of anger. By the time I reached Colorado, I wasn't running anymore. I was rebuilding. I settled in Denver, a city I'd always loved for its balanced urban ambition framed by the quiet power of nature. Using my background in logistics optimization, I started consulting remotely for construction firms nationwide. Within a year, Grant Logistics v Engineering had expanded into new regions, free from the Moore family's shadow. Business thrived. But more importantly, my mind finally quieted. 3 months after the wedding that never happened, I gave a lecture at a tech conference in Denver on the future of AI-driven logistics. That's where I saw Emily White again. We'd studied together at Oregon State University years ago. She was a talented software engineer, sharp, honest, grounded. After my presentation, she walked up to me, smiling. "Lucas Grant. I can't believe it's really you." "Emily White," I said, laughing. "It's been 15 years?" We went for coffee that afternoon, talking for hours. She didn't mention the wedding scandal, though I knew she must have heard about it. Instead, she asked about my projects, my ideas, my goals. It was refreshing, someone finally seeing me, not my past. "You seem different," she said, looking at me thoughtfully. "Calmer. Like you've been through fire and came out tempered instead of burned." I smiled. "Yeah. Something like that." We stayed in touch. First emails, then video calls, then visits. What began as friendship slowly became something deeper, steady, natural, real. For the first time, love didn't feel like a merger or a business decision. It felt simple, human. A year later, I moved permanently to Denver. I digitized every system at Grant Logistics, making it a company that could run without me. That freedom gave me something more valuable than profit: peace. 2 years after the wedding that never was, Emily and I married in an intimate ceremony at Rocky Mountain National Park. No grandeur, no audience, just family, mountains, and the kind of silence that makes you believe in second chances. There was no performance, no pretense, no lies. Just two people who understood what it meant to lose everything and build again. Life in Denver became a new rhythm. Mornings with coffee on the balcony overlooking the city. Evenings filled with laughter, music, and plans that didn't revolve around contracts or alliances. Emily brought lightness back into my world, the kind that doesn't need to prove anything. 5 years later, our daughter Sophie was born. 2 years after that, our son Michael. And every night, when I tucked them into bed, I realized that betrayal hadn't destroyed me. It had redefined me. Meanwhile, back in Portland, I occasionally heard updates about Sienna and Aaron. They'd married out of necessity, not love. The baby, a boy, was unmistakably Aaron's. Their reputations never recovered. More urban developments had collapsed under financial strain, losing contracts worth tens of millions. Robert Moore sold off his shares and quietly retired. Aaron bounced between jobs, eventually ending up in sales at a used car dealership. They had become exactly what they tried to make of me: broken, forgettable, ordinary. Years later, during a trip to Portland to visit my mother, I ran into Sienna by chance at a shopping center. She looked older, worn, carrying the weight of choices that couldn't be undone. "Lucas," she said softly. "Sienna." She hesitated. I wanted to apologize. "For everything. You didn't deserve any of it." I nodded. "You're right. I didn't. But I also don't deserve to carry hate forever." Her eyes welled with tears. She whispered, "I hope you found peace." "I did," I said simply. "I hope you do too." She smiled weakly and walked away. And for the first time, I didn't feel bitterness, only gratitude that I'd survived it all. Because the truth is, the best revenge isn't destruction, it's reconstruction. It's living so well that those who betrayed you become footnotes in the story of your happiness. Today, I'm 40 years old. I run my own consulting firm out of Denver, working with clients across the country. My children laugh in the same house where Emily and I built everything from scratch. I sleep peacefully every night. And sometimes, when I drive by the river and see a wedding party taking photos, I smile not with pain, but with understanding. Because I know what it's like to watch everything burn. And still walk out of the fire stronger. Thank you for staying with me through my story. If these words touched you, if they stirred something in you or made you reflect on your own journey, I ask only 3 small things. Like the video so others can find it. Leave a comment, share your story, or simply tell me what struck you the hardest. Subscribe because more stories are coming, and you won't want to miss what's ahead.